are one of the most common problems that goat owners run into, especially new goat owners. And it's something that if you have goats, you are going to have to deal with worms. And unless maybe you're some extremely blessed person who lives in a freezing cold place where you have like 2 months of grazing and virtually no worms. But I think they probably still have them even there. So, worms can be controlled. They can't be completely eliminated. Goats are born with worms. You're going to have them. But there are different methods of control. Some people use herbal wormers, which I've had some success with, but not as good as I would have liked. Maybe I just wasn't using the right one, but I know there are some good herbal wormers out there. The most important thing for the control of worms is minerals. Making sure that your goats have good minerals, especially that are high in copper. And then of course there's the conventional chemical wormers, which are rather hard on the goats, but they do control the worms quite effectively if you use them rightly. So I kind of do a little bit of all three. Mostly I try to keep their minerals balanced, and so the worms aren't nearly as much of a problem. But occasionally I do have to use chemical wormers. And the reason that you have to control worms is because they can cause some real serious problems for your goats. You know, you don't want your goats to be sick and unhealthy. And even aside from that, they can cost you a lot of money. You had to feed them a lot more to keep up a decent amount of weight on them if they're also struggling with worms. They're not going to produce as much milk. Or if you have meat goats, they won't put on weight as well for meat. And they'll have trouble with breeding and kidding. And in some cases, they can even become very anemic and die. So if a goat starts to go down with worms, they're not a real big animal, so you don't have much reaction time. So it's important to catch them early. And that's what I'm going to be showing today, is how to determine if your goat has worms by using the color of their eyelid and also by their body position. Come here, Frida. Okay, good. Stop it. Frida here, and all the goats really need some wormer. Usually if you keep them up to date on their minerals, they don't need as much as frequent worming. But especially in a rainy place like Florida, goats are going to need to be wormed, and some more than others. Some people will worm every month, which I don't personally agree with at all, because then you end up overworming your goats. And this also decreases the effectiveness of the chemical wormers, because worms have the ability to adapt to be resistant to the wormers. So if you're worming when you don't need to, then they end up being resistant to it, and you have to use a much stronger wormer, which in turn is hard on your goat. So I like to worm only on an as-needed basis, and the best way to determine that is by performing a fecal exam with a microscope. I'm not an expert at that yet, so I prefer to go the easier route, which is to use the Famacha style of determining when your goat needs to be wormed. The Famacha style of determining when you need to worm your goat is based on the color of the eyelid. So I'm going to try to show Frida's eyelid color here. To see the color, you just kind of gently press almost on the eye, on top of the eyelid of course, and pull it down so that you can expose the membrane there. Now I'm having a hard time seeing that side, so I'm going to do on this side. And Frida's not being particularly cooperative just now. Of course, I guess I might not either if somebody was trying to stare at my eyelid. There you go. You can see that exposed membrane right in here. The inside color of the eyelid. That's what you're looking for. There are Famacha charts available, which are a very useful tool. And basically it has several graded pictures of the eye color of goat's eyes, and then a recommendation of when to worm next to it. So I don't have the Famacha card, but if I did, I would pull her eyelid down like this. Once I get it there, down like that, and then hold the card up next to it to compare the colors. Now, as you can see, it's still kind of pink. It's not extremely pale. If they're extremely wormy, like on the point of death kind of wormy, that'll be chalk white. But she's not extremely wormy, but it's way too pale for where she should be. It should be a nice dark red. Other signs of worms include that the goat is thin, which as you can see Frida is. She's not extremely thin. She doesn't have bones sticking out, but her hips are projecting some here, so that's not good. Dairy goats won't be totally smooth through here. Meat goat might, not dairy goats. She's also got this pretty good dent here behind her shoulder. I can easily see and feel her shoulder blade. Her hips are sticking out. Her pin bones, which are right here and here, are not extremely pronounced, but they're more than they should be. This should be a little more rounded in here. This lump shouldn't be sticking out like that. So she's a little on the thin side, even though I've been feeding her plenty, and so that's another symptom of worminess. Okay. Another sign that they're wormy is their coat, and this is a very easily seen sign. A goat's coat that's in good health should be nice and smooth and shiny. When their coat is rough and coarse like this, well, let me explain. When it is summertime, they should be smooth and shiny. In the winter and fall, you know, when they're growing in their winter coat, that's not a problem. In the spring, when they're shedding their coat, not a problem. It's normal to have coarse hair then because they're getting rid of their winter coat or getting it in. But in the summer or during warm weather, especially after a spring shed, then their coat should be smooth and shiny. And if it's not, then you need to check them for worms or for some other health problem. So as you can see right now, Frida's coat is a little on the rough side. All the hairs are they're just kind of coarse and rough, and they stick up a little bit. They don't lay down nice and smooth. They're pretty smooth here, but all here along her back and on her side here, that's too rough. And I don't know if it shows up in the video, but the hairs right here have a curl to the end. There's just a slight curl to the ends of these hairs, and that's not what you want. So I'm going to go ahead and worm her for these reasons. So I'm going to go ahead and worm her, and to worm her accurately, I'll need to weigh her or use a weight tape to determine her weight. Now, most people don't have a scale that's big enough to weigh a goat on, so this very handy weigh tape was invented. This is just a tape with the inches marked on it, and also the goat's weight in accordance to their heart girth measurement. The heart girth is right behind the shoulders, all the way around the chest and up to the top again. So what I'm going to do, it has inches and centimeters on one side and pounds on the other. So you can see it starts with 5 pounds, 5.5, 6 pounds, and so forth. And these weigh tapes are pretty accurate. So I need to make sure that I have the right side facing up, the pounds side, because that's what I'm looking for. And just put this around her so it goes all the way around. And draw it pretty snug, but not like squeezing her unnaturally tight. And bring it together here. So she is about 155 or 160 pounds. 155 pulling it snug. And I think that's about right. So I'm going to give her a 155 pound dose of Sidectum poron. This is Sidectum poron cattle warmer, and that might seem like a rather strange thing to be giving your goats, but it's actually a very cost-effective way to treat a lot of goats, and so far I've had pretty good results with it, so I'm going to keep on using it. I give it orally. You don't need to give it as poron, but it gets into their system a lot quicker orally. Now, for Sidectum poron, the dosage for a goat that I use is 1 cc per 100 pounds. Now, unfortunately, the number's mostly rubbed off of my dosing syringe here. This is called a Drench Syringe. If you have goats, get one of these. It's one of the most useful things you'll ever have. And it's metal on the tip here so they can't bite through it, which is very handy. And it's crooked, so you can get it in their mouth and kind of shoot it into the back of their throat where they can't regurgitate it as easily. So, she's 155 pounds, so she needs a dosage of a little over 1.5 cc's. No, just about 1.5 cc's. So I'm just going to draw that up. That's 1.5 there. Never, ever, ever leave the bottle open because they will knock it over. Now, Frida makes things easier because she has a beard, so it's easy to grab her. But some goats will resist worming quite vigorously because the stuff tastes nasty. But she's got a mouthful of cud there. Better let her get that down. I'd rather not have that spewed all over me. Okay. Now just insert it in the cheek, kind of tilt their head up like that. Squirt. And it didn't all come out. So, because of this long neck here, it doesn't always come out. I'm gonna, there, I think I got it that time. Most of it. There's still some. In the case like this, what I probably should have done was drawn up a much larger dosage than I needed. And then you can use this handy little thing here to screw it down to wherever the proper dose is. And that way you can use it just like a regular worming syringe that you'd buy, you know, a wormer tube of paste. And you can give them the amount that you need. This also enables you to treat multiple goats in a row. But I'm going to keep trying this. There. Okay, and that's that. I'll check her again in a week or 2 weeks. Maybe even run a fecal exam on her and make sure that worked, because she's probably going to need another worming in 2 weeks. You can also worm a goat without a stanchion, even though it's not as easy. So to do this, it's wise to have them on a rope. And you can either tie them up or stand on the rope, like I'm doing. And you just measure them, as usual. Switch into the measuring tape. This one. Always make sure that you're using the right end of the measuring tape, or you can come up with some very confusing weights. 87 pounds. So, she needs about 9/10 of a cc. That's not very much. And I have 4 cc's here. So, I will put that to almost 1 cc. And give her dose. Now, it's best, if you're doing this without a stanchion, it's best if you can lean up against a post. This helps give you some stability. And then you'll want to hold the goat in kind of a headlock like this. Or, especially if it's a real wild goat, you may even need to straddle her. So, do that, and there we go. Go down the wrong side, girl. It'll be alright. Okay, that's that. You can also do this for administering medicine if they're sick or something. When you worm a dairy goat, it's important to observe the milk withdrawal time, because you don't want to be drinking the wormer, because it will come through the milk. So, since I've wormed Frida, I'm going to go ahead and milk her this morning. I haven't had a chance to get into her system. But then we're going to have to dump the milk for the next 2 or 3 days. Or 3 to 4 days, excuse me. You always want to observe at least a 3-day milk withdrawal. And I personally like to go 4 or 5 days to make sure that it's all the way out of their system. But the truth is, in third world countries, they use these wormers for worming people. Some of them at least. So, it's probably not going to kill you. If it won't kill the goat, it's not going to kill you. But you don't want to be getting extra chemicals through the milk. So always make sure that you dump the milk for at least 3 to 5 days after worming. And usually on the back of the wormer, whatever wormer you use, they'll give a recommended milk withdrawal time, especially if it's for dairy cattle. There are some wormers that they say not to use on dairy animals, like ivermectin poron is not supposed to be used on dairy animals. Some people still use it. That's up to them, but it's not recommended. The milk is safe to give to other animals, so the dogs will be getting this, and I'm sure they'll be very happy about that. But don't drink it yourself.